Joel, are you on your phone?
Yeah. Just looking to get some new team kits for my social clubs.
What sport are you playing?
Basketball, soccer, footy, rugby, cricket, pickleball, tennis, netball, a bit of esports. Yep.
Gee, bit of a jack of all trades, Joel.
Yeah, well, I've got a pickleball background.
Oh, that's important for the podcast game, the old pickleball background. Where are you getting these kits from?
Get me kits from First Ever Custom. You actually get 10% off when you check out using the discount code SASH10.
So all of those team kits for all those different sports you mentioned, you're going to get 10% off.
Yeah, that's right. So the credit card's getting a bit of a workout, but I generally leave things to the last minute, and only 15 business days turnaround for delivery, so I'm going to get them quickly.
Only 15 business days. When does pickleball season start?
There's many seasons.
Many seasons.
Yeah.
All year round. Well, that's Don's Footy, baby. You can check the links on our socials and in the episode description. A fast start, a quick response, and an absolute grind of a second half sets up an Anzac Day classic. This is the Sash, definitely not the official podcast of the Essendon Football Club. I'm your host, Rob, here with you for the Monday review show, and joining me in studio is James. Hello, mate.
G'day, Rob. Wowee. What a game. I reckon the heart rate's just come down. Now it feels like a while ago, but I reckon I needed a few days just to settle down. But what a game. Plenty of content for us to discuss tonight.
Yes, we're definitely not short on content this evening. And back for the second time, Ryan. Hello, buddy.
Hello. How you going?
Good. Some positive reviews from your first appearance, I must say.
I got to admit, I think my mum put in a few too many.
Yeah.
My wife put in the negatives, but I think mum came through with a couple of positives.
I was like, a lot of people look a lot like Ryan in these pictures that I'm seeing. But good to see you back, mate. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm good. I'm still in a bit of a daze from Thursday. I don't know. I'm still not sure. I don't know really what to think about. I'm really happy, but I don't know why. I think is that a weird feeling?
I reckon
James?
that was the feeling around the G afterwards. That's what a draw brings. Everyone just sort of looking around going, well, what do I do? And it was maybe we should have won, but then we didn't lose. So that was good. And in the end, I reckon a draw was probably a fair result. But a weird feeling.
Yeah, I think if we were the better side, the favourite coming in, I think I'd feel differently about it. Like Anzac Days, we know often can go either way. But let's say that Essendon drew to North Melbourne. I think I'd take that as a loss. Whereas because it's the reigning premier, because everyone was saying that Collingwood were going to win, well, most people were definitely, I'm kind of like, well, I'll take it. Where do you guys sit on the draw? Because everyone's been saying this week, we should change extra time. Are you stick with draw, or are you no draw?
I think I'm an extra time guy. Okay. I think now we've gotten to a point where, like you were saying, James, it was just such an alien feeling after the game, and you just see everyone kind of looking at each other. You don't know who to bag out. You don't whether feel good. You don't know if you can abuse someone on the train. I think maybe 15 minutes, even 10 minutes each way. Maybe I know that it's essentially adding another quarter, and I know that they're going to be exhausted from it. But I do feel like. I don't know. I think I am leaning towards overtime.
Okay. What about you, James?
I'm a stick with the draw.
Okay.
I think it's a unique part of our game. I think a lot of people who follow the American sports, that's what they're used to. They're used to walking away with the result, and I understand that point. But I think in this case particularly, I thought a draw was fair. And I was pretty exhausted by the end of it, so I don't know how the players would get up and play another 10. But I'm happy to walk away with a draw. And obviously finals is a different story, and that's obviously fair as well. But I think in home and away, that's something I'm happy with.
Yeah, I think I'm stay with the draw as well. Like we were talking off air about some other sports, and I'm a big soccer guy. I watch a lot of Premier League, watch a bit of A-League as well. So I'm used to draws. Obviously, it's very different when it's 1-1 versus 85-85, but that's just part of it. Sometimes you don't get it, and you played your hearts out, and turns out you were equal at the end. And it means that at least as long as no other draws in the league, that percentages now are relevant to us, which is great. So maybe this was a bit of 3D chess move from the Bombers. Yeah, but I'm okay with it.
I think it's fine. Look, as much as I like extra time, I do think it's relatively fine because it happens so rarely. I mean, how many draws did we have last year? Maybe one.
Yeah, not many.
I can't actually remember the last time, and I specifically can't remember the last time we had a draw. I think that as a club we tend to, win or lose, we don't tend to draw, which is fine. But
it's been a while.
Yeah,
it's been a while. I probably should have.
But I do agree with you guys. It did feel fair.
Okay,
you know.
actually, no, I can tell you when the last draw was for Essendon. It was round 11, 2020, so that's why it's a bit of a blur. It was at Carrara Stadium, and we drew with the Gold Coast 73 each. So
What a classic.
Memorable game, that one.
memorable game. I think that might have been in that window. I mean, COVID was an awful time. But remember that there was like that 35 days where there was a game every day?
Yeah.
Pretty sure I spent every day with my housemate with a slab. Sometimes there was 4 of us, sometimes there was just 2 of us, and the game would start, and we'd open the slab, and we'd sit there and be like, well, I'm unemployed, and there's nothing going on, so we're just going to drink cans and watch the footy, and, you know.
Not the worst.
Not the worst times. Not the worst times. I mean, drawing to the Gold Coast is pretty shit, but anyway, that was that. Let's look at this game, though. I don't know where you begin. I mean, let's look at term by term, or at least I reckon look at the first half, the second half, because that first term was one of the best first terms I think we've played in some time. And there was a few old blokes around me who were like, oh, we've got this. And I'm like, were you not here last year? Where were you last year? Like, doesn't matter how far away we head. Collingwood will come at some point, and they did come in the second quarter. But, gee, that was some pure footy.
Yeah, everything just went right, which sort of, I was with a good mate who's also called James there, and we're sort of looking at each other going, what do we do? Like, we wanted to celebrate, but walking to the G, I sort of said to him, if we kick the first 6, it's game on. If they kick the first 6, we're fucked.
Yeah.
And I think we kicked the first 5, maybe 6.
Yeah. Might have been 5 and then 1 or 4
yeah.
and 1. Yeah, anyway.
And then it was game on. You always knew they were going to come back. I think most Essendon supporters sort of probably burnt from the past was sort of thinking that, so it wasn't a surprise when they did. But yeah, really good start. And I guess the worry coming into the game was, would the lights be too bright? Collingwood reigning premiers, big crowd, big game. Would we sort of fumble the start? Well, really pleased with how we started, and yeah, really composed footy, and probably they were the ones that were a little bit startled, whether they didn't expect it or whether we just played really good footy, maybe a bit of both. But yeah, an awesome start, and I wish we could have that every week.
Oh, I tell you what, I mean, the worst thing about being an Essendon supporter is that as soon as we got that lead, I was more frightened than I had been before the game, because I thought, well, this is not gonna last. They're gonna come back, as they did. But I mean, as soon as I see Darcy Parish kick a snap, I think, Jesus, we might be on here. But that second quarter, I think we talked about it last week. You know, Essendon has to be at 100%, and I felt that first quarter was pure 100%. That second quarter was that where we start to drop. You know, and I think we only have to be a couple of % off, and they just turned on. But you're right. I think that them being slow out of the gates is not just sort of shocking this year, but it was really exciting football, and it was us at our absolute best. And going into halftime, I think we were 1 point up.
Yep.
Still pretty happy with that, I got to admit.
Yeah, because 6 goals in the first, 1 goal in the second. Obviously, quite a few behinds in there as well. But yeah, like the first half couldn't be more opposite each of those quarters, and then we get into the second half and what becomes a pure arm wrestle. And I mean, yeah, it wasn't a shootout. It was definitely an arm wrestle. And I know in my post-match video, I talked about how fumbly people were, and someone made a really good point, and I didn't think about it, but it was finals-like intensity. Collingwood lifted, and the impressive thing was that when they brought the absolute heat in that second half, we didn't wilt, because last year and however many countless years before that, when teams go to that next level, Essendon goes, well, thanks, guys. That's us done for the day. But we kept cracking in, and you know, there were some bad moments, but there were some bloody good moments as well. And God, that I don't know how you felt in that final couple of minutes, but I don't know. In the last few years, I don't know if it's getting old or it's just the close wins, but suddenly I've started to notice like my blood pressure rising. Like the Richmond win last year where Durham took that mark. I think I jumped up and then like went for breath, and I was like, oh shit. Like, you know, and I think I'm a reasonably healthy person, but I was like, oh God, this is actually starting to take effect on me. So
yeah, it's not good for the heart,
no.
Supporting Essendon. But yeah, the arm wrestle is the way I would describe it as well. And I actually sort of felt that I got so swept up in the changes of momentum and the back and forth and whatnot, that when Langford was lining up for goal, it was the first time I'd sort of pulled my phone out and had a look to see how long was left. So I actually didn't realise how important that kick was until he was sort of kicking it and evidently missed it. And then it sort of dawned on me that was probably it.
Yeah.
And then our defence from kick-ins was terrible all game. So then in a split second, it's, well, now let's just not lose it. So
how did you guys feel? I can't remember who kicked it for Collingwood, but how did you feel when the ball is heading out towards the 50 arc and Jamie Elliott is running onto it, having got good 5 meters on Jake Kelly? Just heart was absolute sinking in that moment.
Pure deja vu from a few years ago. It just couldn't end that way again. I mean, just the therapy that you'd require after another tight loss to Collingwood would just be horrific. I mean, so thank God our defence is better this year, and he didn't get the look at it that he would have gotten in the past. But again, it's one of those things. Like, I think you guys made such a great point about that resilience, to be able to match them. And I felt that even in those last few minutes, we could have easily have just turned off. We could have easily have had those mental blanks. But it was just great to actually get to the end and be able to say to the Premiers, no, we've got you reasonably covered.
Yeah. I think Jamie Elliott spent all his marking tickets on the mark of the year that he took, and
oh, that was shocking.
What an absolute! I mean, look, terrific mark. Poor Benny Mackay is going to join Jake Carlisle in the history books of Essendon step ladders. But I mean, look, hopefully Benny turns out to be better than him. But yeah, it was nice that after what Jamie Elliott had done the previous quarter, that the simple one he dropped, and then Jake Kelly picked it up, and off way we went, and then. Who knows? There was a moment there where I thought we were gonna get it, but Merritt played on from I think he got it downfield. I think Hind kicks it, gets hit, and then Merritt just sort of goes in the rush, just takes it, and then that's the end of the game. But yeah, whirlwind. Where do you guys want to go from here? I guess we can go into the goods. Plenty to discuss. James, do you want to take us off with someone or something?
There's plenty to choose from. I feel like there's some regular names popping up in the goods, which is great. So I'm going to try and switch it up a little bit and probably talk about a couple of guys that I haven't mentioned on here. And I'll start with Dyson Heppel. I'll put my hand up. I was very critical of Heps probably from the start of last year, maybe even slightly earlier than that, around what's his place in this side. He's keeping out someone who could be developing. He looks lost at sea. He's not composed with the ball. And then he's obviously not the greatest one-on-one defender, especially if he's playing on those smaller, dangerous forwards. But his second half of last year and then the start of this season has been fantastic. I don't know whether it's not having the weight of the captaincy on his shoulders now and he can just focus on playing his role.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a part of it. Maybe it's Brad Scott sort of instilling a new lease on life for Heppel and sort of putting some of those darker days behind, maybe a bit of both. But he seems like a different player. He's so much more composed with the footy.
Yeah.
He reads the game so well, and I think that's holding him in really good stead, playing in that back line. He's putting together a really, really good season, and I'm stoked for Heps. If there's one bloke I'd love to see some success before he finishes up, it's him. 27 disposals, 96% efficiency.
Not
Didn't
bad.
think I'd be saying that about Heppel a year and a half ago, but I'm happy to.
It's absolutely unreal, isn't it? And I think you've got a really good point about that captaincy not being his responsibility anymore. His role does seem simplified, and even just sort of, he kind of just reminds me of one of those sort of Ted Richards types guys that you've got one role, just go out, execute that, focus on nothing else, and you'll be fine. And you've got Andy McGrath down there who's really become more of a general, I think, in that back line. So even in regards to leadership, Heppel doesn't seem to need to pull too much weight, but it's working perfectly for him. Even in the last 3 weeks, you said 96%. Last week, he was 13 disposals at 92, and then the week prior was 18 at 89. They're just unreal numbers, and really, as you were saying, pretty rare for Heppel too. He has seemed jittery at times, but he looks so stable.
Yeah. As long as he doesn't have to race someone for a loose ball on the ground, he looks great. There was one in the middle of the ground where the ball's on the deck and it was him and McCreary, and I was like, well, McCreary's got this, and he just ran away and took it. So other than that, he's been really good. I've said for at least the last 12 months and a long time that his work in the air is underrated, I think. His marking is really, really good. And then if he is composed with it, he's a great asset to the team. As long as he doesn't have to chase a little small forward who's weaving and ducking around, then good. You can have a guy in this side like that. But, the questions will be later in the year, and if we do get into positions where we have to play just teams where it's all out pressure, will he hold up to that? Because, the pressure was on against Collingwood, but can he keep doing that, I guess, is the main thing. But credit where it's due. Credit where it's due. I mean, I had him retiring in round 3 last year. I think most people did.
Yeah.
And now we're sitting here being like, geez, you're going to go again? Like, what's going to happen? Who knows? So, who do I want to pick out? That is the question. Because there's so many. I want to pick out a particular move in the game, which happened in the last quarter, where a young man by the name of Nick Martin went into the forward line. And it was pivotal, I think, in us staying in the game and almost winning the game. Brad Scott has spoken a lot about wanting to have players who can be flexible, and that's been, one of the reasons why we saw Jake Kelly play on the wing for a period of time, although hopefully that never happens again, is that we want players who can go into different roles so they can make this move. And this was the move that we needed to play in the time. It's paid off. And then you read all the comments online afterwards and everyone's going, play him there every week. And now I'm like, where do we play him? Are we going to keep him at halfback? Are we going to push him back to a wing or a half forward flank? It's a good problem to have. Are we waiting till Ridley's fit to make this move? Or is he just going to stay where he is and then this is the, trump card we can play if we need to?
He does look dangerous close to goals, and that is really exciting, and it is tempting to move him out of that role. It's actually a similar positive I had. I just had Brad Scott making the move.
Yeah.
In that quarter, Nick Martin was 10 disposals at 90% and that very, very impressive goal.
Yeah.
But I think it might be better in small doses, That is the great card to play when things aren't going our way, because obviously he just changes. Suddenly the opposition has to work very hard to negate what he's able to do, but it is definitely tempting to have him there every week because he does look electric.
Yeah. I mean, it's not quite the old send Cale Hooker forward or back maneuver. I think it's got a little bit more to it than that. But yeah, incredible move, and yeah, it could have been the match winner if other things went our way. We'll talk about Kyle Langford, but the one that pisses me off the most is the fact that 50 out in the boundary, Jake Stringer every day, 15 metres in front, not his thing. Just not his thing. You got a good for me, Ryan?
Yes, I've got a good. We kind of mentioned it a little earlier, but just the resilience of the side on the day, I think that was probably the most impressive aspect. Obviously, the second quarter happened and we all saw it coming at some stage. But I think, as you were saying earlier, Rob, that ability for the boys to just go, all right, let's quell the momentum, let's just put a halt on it and actually get the game back on our terms was really, really exciting. And I think a lot of that came from our ability to control clearances.
Yeah.
And I think across the game, we won clearances 40-23, especially in the centre, 19-8. That was really pivotal. And I think we've lost so many games in the midfield when guys get their heads down, but it was really super impressive. And a little bit scary because I'm a little confident now in Essendon's midfield, and that doesn't sit comfortably with me.
It's okay. We're about to go play West Coast. It's okay. They'll bring you right back down.
That is in my bads. But yes, you look at Caldwell, Durham, and Merritt. It's just they're making it hard for opposition sides, and that resilience, particularly in the midfield, is really exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Coming into the game, Collingwood were ranked the number 1 clearance side in the comp, and to win that, also have almost 20 more contested possessions against a side who regularly smash us in that area. You look at those numbers and you go, why didn't we win? But we know that Collingwood's strength of being a team who just counter so well, go end to end, go coast to coast. Collingwood's front half pressure I thought was incredible. I'm not sure what the numbers are for tackles inside 50, but it felt like they just swarmed us every time. So yeah, just to not wilt under that pressure is something that's really exciting going forward, because now we go another week and we go, all right, we've had one bad one and 6 pretty good ones. Let's keep on that trend. I think I saw someone write in a comment, are we consistent now? Can we say we're consistent? And I'm like, don't use that word. Not ready for that. What else? James?
Just in addition to that, on that point around halting the momentum and absorbing the pressure. And we spoke about it in the Adelaide game as well. They got a run on. We were able to halt them back. Again, in the Collingwood game, changes of momentum their way, our way. We were able to halt it. I think one of the good things that we're able to do is sort of play that controlling game. Obviously, we're reliant, or not reliant, but our key feature of our game plan has been winning the ball in those contested settings and in those clearances. But we beat them 249 uncontested possessions to 193. And I think that was really noticeable watching, especially at the ground. We just would switch to sort of that plan B, if you like. Just let's control it for a little bit. Let's chip it around. Let's find that shorter target and open space up for our forwards. Obviously, we were playing that taller team, so we couldn't afford to bomb it in, and we saw them hurt us on the way out, and that was sort of the game for the majority. And yeah, they smashed us in tackles inside 50. They had 14, we had 2. So I like that we were smart with our ball use to open up leads and service our forwards pretty well, and at least bring it to ground when we needed to. But yeah, I sort of feel like the Essendon of old, dare I say it. It's plan A, and if that doesn't work, well, that's it. We sort of had a couple of game styles to go to, and I thought Scott coached really, really well. We spoke about the Martin move, stringer into the midfield when needed to match up on De Goey, and then having sort of those two styles of play. Yeah, credit to him.
Yeah, it's a bit more in depth than the old Worsfold switch that we used to do.
Learnings.
Yeah, I was watching the replay back today, and there's that passage in the first quarter where Pendlebury hits his 10,000th disposal, and obviously all the Collingwood supporters go nuts. And like, this is the first time I'd watched it back, and the commentators were like, "Oh, how good is this?" And they're like, "Well, he's got to get back to it because we were just in the middle of resetting it up, and it was just kick pass really quickly." And there sort of couldn't be any fanfare because we were obviously riding a really big wave in that first term. And you're right, we were just like, all right, let's slow it down. Let's look for that right kick. Who's it going to be? And then I think it went inside 50 again. We might have even kicked a goal from that play, if not moments later. So you're right. I don't like saying nice things because I feel like it jinxes us, but we're looking okay.
Looking versatile.
We're looking okay. And I'm looking stressed, but we're looking okay. Zach Merritt, he's a gun. That's all.
I didn't even put him in the goods because I thought it was such an assumption,
Just cut it from last week's pod and
just go listen. Keep
pacing it. We'll just add a best on ground Anzac Day medal to that.
He's a freak. He's just a freak.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys listened to my premium preview show on Thursday night, but I did predict him to win the Anzac Day medal. Didn't put any money on it, but I predicted it. Because I thought, I was like, oh man, I won some money. I went and looked back to it. I'm like, oh no, I put money on the Brownlow, not the Anzac Day medal. I mean, it could still go right there if Isaac Haney doesn't keep playing well. But just another one to add to the hopefully growing trophy cabinet for young Zachy.
He's unreal. He's just, but I'll tell you another guy that I do want to shine a little light on, and it's the vice captain. I did this last week, but I just think he's in a real rich vein of form. And if Craig Vozzo, speaking to SEN, is anything to go by, there's a very, very big contract ahead of Andy McGrath, and he's playing like he wants it. His game was 31 disposals, 3 tackles, and at 81%. Another guy that isn't historically that great by foot. Some of the kicks he was going central to the corridor. They were risky, but they were all paying off. I mean, he doesn't get everything right, and that's no one's 100%. But but I just think he looks more confident than he has in a long time.
Yeah, a few people had him best on ground, which I certainly thought Merritt was, but I didn't think it was that much of a stretch to say that he was best on ground. 23 of those disposals were kicks. So the fact he went 81%, I think, times 10 when you kick it that many, it's not little sideways handballs where you're hitting the target, and 10 intercept possessions. I felt like he was everywhere when they were going inside 50, and you probably sort of expect that from your taller marking defenders for Pidge to obviously have a job on one of their smaller forwards and then be able to back himself in to read the ball and go and intercept it and have that many possessions, a really complete game. And I think it's funny we talk about contract year Jake Stringer. Maybe it's contract year Pidge as well.
Yeah, and he's just like obviously another year playing in his best position, which is off halfback flank. We obviously gave up on the midfielder experiment, and maybe the work of David Rath is having a big effect on him as well, because at times I think he can be a good kick, but I always felt like, particularly when he played in the midfield, he was just constantly in that just hack it over the body, just get it forward at all cost mentality. Whereas now, like, he just looks composed, and having several guys who are composed in the back line is what gets you places. And yeah, like his ability to close on someone, to lay the fist, lay the tackle, lay the bump, whatever he needs to do, has always been good. I guess the knock's been on that other side of his game, because, like, remember that first year when he was winning the Rising Star and he was shutting down small forwards in his first year. We're like, oh my God, what's this guy going to do? And then we went, let's put him in the midfield. And then we're like, oh, no, that's not what we need to do. But now he's getting back to good footy. And I remember chatting to Damo Ryan on this show like a month or so ago, and he was talking about him. He goes, if you stop thinking about him as the number one pick, you would just go, he's a really good footballer for our team. But because he's got that mantle, we'll always be like, well, he needs to be the best player in the comp. But he's now at a point where he's just a really good player in the team. Hopefully starting to get a bit more recognition around the league. Because I know a lot of opposition supporters are like, oh, what a bust of a player. I'm like, he's not a bust. He's not, the greatest number one pick ever, but he's not a bust by any stretch. So I'm happy for him. He's obviously a great leader at the club, and looks like he's going to be staying around for, 6 or so years on a nice deal.
It does look like 6 years. And may I say how nice it is to hear you use the word pidge, because I got this funny feeling, particularly when they did that podcast, Rish and Rath, that he was trying to do a George Costanza and give himself a nickname that he actually liked, because he didn't seem to ever like the nickname Pidge.
Yeah.
He tried to T-bone himself.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you used Pidge, because that's his nickname.
It's the Australian way, isn't it? As soon as you say that you don't want to be called something, bang, that sticks. So
I mean,
I'll keep rolling Pidge out. If he plays like that, I'll keep calling him Pidge.
Yeah.
Do you think Marty Gleeson wanted to be called Fetus?
Yeah. Hey, look, I don't want to be called Massive Legend, but if you have to call me that, it's okay, you can. Yeah, well, look, there's only one Rath at the club, and that's David Rath, so let's keep it that way. Speaking of Rath, I thought the Rish was pretty handy in patches as well. Definitely not the best player on the ground by any stretch, but in some pretty key moments, I thought he did some really big things, like a couple of really big tackles, won some pretty big clearances, was good in play generally, and is just... I feel like off what was a pretty slow start to the season, I think he's starting to build into a little bit of form, and not having to be the everything, knowing that, guys like Durham and Caldwell probably covering him a little bit defensively. He can just kind of do his own thing, and pretty happy for Darcy.
Yeah, I'd sort of spoken about him in the bads the last couple of weeks. He hadn't played shocking games. It was just he set the bar really high for himself, so that's the standard we hold him to, and fair to say he was below that. I still wonder whether he was not 100% fit. It certainly looked like a more Darcy Parish game this week. And like you said, Rob, I thought he stood up in some big moments. It's not a stretch to say that was a finals-like atmosphere and intensity throughout that game. And yeah, his experience stood up. So hopefully he continues to progress. And again, I don't think he needs to do as much as what we're used to. And so as supporters, I think we need to get used to that as well, because I think it's easy to look at the stats. Oh, he didn't have 30. What's going on? Well, his role isn't the same as what it used to be.
Yeah, he's killing my Supercoach team. How dare he? He's not a very good player anymore. Costing me money on Supercoach. Let's talk about Kyle Langford, because unfortunately people are going to speak about the point at the end. But you have to look at it this way. At least he kicked a point, because Brodie Mychek on 2 occasions couldn't manage that, and that would have won Collingwood the game. So at least he kicked the point. But I thought Kyle had a really, really good game. 2 massive goals in the final term, obviously a few goals before that as well. But just a nice game for Kyle after I'd say some tough weeks for him, where he's probably had a bit of attention, probably hasn't been as strong as he has been, but just very reliable. I think I can't remember if it was on the coverage or on radio, I heard someone say, oh, he kind of reminds me of when Gunston was up and running for Hawthorn. I'm like, that's a pretty handy comparison. So yeah, loving what Langers is doing.
Yeah, look, there's nothing that Kyle really, I mean, aside from kicking that goal, and I know that's the obvious one, but 4 goals, 2 on the day, we're not even near him possibly winning us the game if he's not on like he was. He was just, I don't know, I guess it's one of those things, I've become a bit numb to how good he is. The only thing that really reminds me of how good Kyle has become as a player, because there were times where he was spending a lot of his season in the VFL. It's only when opposition players go, geez, I wish we God, I wish we had Kyle. God, Kyle's good. And you go, yeah, he is bloody good, isn't he? And already to this point in the season, he's kicked 17 goals, which, he looks like he's on track to repeat what he did last year. No, you really can't fault the guy. And anyone that says, he could have cost us the game. But to your point, Rob, my check couldn't even get on the scoreboard. So, it sucks shit.
I reckon if you ask me, who would you like kicking for goal from that position with a minute and a half to go, I'd say Kyle Langford. And if you ask me the same question this week, God forbid we're in that situation again, I don't think I could cope with it. I'd pick him again. He's so reliable in front of goal. And I heard Brad Scott speak in the presser, and he sort of said, "Did you go through your routine, Kyle?" And Langford said yes, and he said, "Well, that's all I need to hear." And I sort of like that, and I reckon that attitude is how the supporters should be looking at it as well. Yes, it's disappointing, but he's such a terrific player and he's so reliable in front of goal. I think you can give him a spell for missing one.
Yeah, I was speaking to someone who was saying how they were on sort of behind where he was kicking, and he said you could just see straight away just didn't come off the foot right, did everything normal, and then just didn't quite come off. But let's be thankful we still got the point at the end of the day. Jakey Stringer looking pretty good, looking pretty fit. Like what he was doing in the midfield. Didn't like him kicking a point from 15 metres out. Loved him kicking one from the boundary. For context sake, I was sitting in the 50-year members section of the MCC.
Must be nice.
So I was with my uncle, who's now a 50-year member, and he was like, "Oh, Rob, haven't taken you to the footy in a while. You should come with me." And I was like, "Beautiful. Just don't have to line up, go through this little door. They take you to a room. There's like cups of tea and bickies, and they give you a cup of tea and a blanket, and then you go sit down." And he said to me, he calls the section the snoozers and the dribblers, because it's not uncommon that you'll see someone asleep during the game. But I think I was probably the only person in that section who was under 65 not wearing military medals. So I felt a bit out of place. But anyway, by the by, I turned to a bloke next to me, an old fella, I can't remember his name, but Jake on the boundary, and I said to him, he loves it here, he will kick this. He was like, "Oh, it's going to be very tough for him." And what did he do? He slotted it from the boundary, but then he missed it from 15 out. So that's Jakey. But he's looking fit, he's looking healthy, he's looking impactful, he's been selfless, I think, in the last few weeks. There was a moment in that game where he had the ball 50 out, and he'd beaten someone, and the Jakey of old takes one or two more steps and just goes, "I'm going to absolutely hoof this from 50." And he lowered the eyes and he hit someone in the lead. And I was like, that is the change that you want to see in Jake Stringer. Maybe it's the new religion that he's found. He's a bit more of a selfless man, but, if him not having the big highlights reel and us getting a few extra goals from someone else happens, then I like that.
It is frightening, some of the positivity I'm having tonight. It is just, I can't stress to you that I agree with everything you said, Rob, because he looks fit, he looks confident, he looks very content, he doesn't look stressed out. And you're right, he's not making those rash, instinctual decisions where, he will go bombing it when he shouldn't be. He looks like the player I thought he was going to be about 5 years ago.
Right.
I think so. It's great to see that he's got there, and obviously things off field are working for him, and pray to God that they stay that way, because he is a very, very big portion of what's making us a competitive side this year, and potentially going forward in the season, not looking too far ahead, I promise, potentially getting us to play finals if we do. Now, I don't think we will, but he's going to be a huge part if we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, his impact in the middle of the ground was awesome. He had 23 centre-bounce attendances. We haven't really seen Stringer go through the middle too often. He's sort of been played as a permanent forward this year, and had 8 clearances, 15 contested possessions from his 19 disposals, and kicked a goal. Probably should have kicked a couple more. That's usually his forte, and that's where he let himself down this week. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that. That's now an option for us if we need to look at it. Stringer into the middle, we know he can do it. He's still got it. I was listening to the radio this morning. I think David King and Jared Waitley were speaking around all of the games on the weekend, but was sort of saying the importance around having a player that can come into the middle of the ground and impact, and then go forward and be dangerous. That Dustin Martin style role, that Jordan De Goey style role. And they were saying Jack Stringer is our man that can do that. And yeah, he's so important. Pray he stays fit. It's the fittest I can remember him being.
Touch wood. Everyone, listeners, viewers, go touch some wood right now.
Probably just cursed it. But yeah, he looks as good as I can remember.
Versatility. Yeah. It's just all we've got at the moment. It's just we seem to have these players that can do so much. And he was saying afterwards, in his very sort of, very casual manner, they wanted me to go in and, take care of De Goey. So I went in and took care of De Goey. And I just love that again, you guys said it earlier, he feels selfless. He just does what the team needs. And it's frighteningly good. Yeah.
One thing I noticed there was Gresham would push up from that high forward role to the contest, and Stringer would take De Goey at the stoppage. And then they'd sort of either change or Gresham would quickly go back, just causing confusion for the structure of Collingwood. And again, Gresham probably a bit of an unsung hero this week. But I thought he played a really, really good game. So to have two players who are, I guess, relatively similar in the damage they can do through the midfield and then moving forward, I think that's going to cause some confusion throughout the year for a few defences as well.
Speaking of damage, Sammy Durham does a lot of damage on the field, maybe off the field too, for all we know. Just watching, I haven't been we've had obviously a few away games, but I haven't been for a few weeks. And watching his closing speed, but two, his athleticism to jump and fly at the ball in the flesh, I was just amazed. There's just something about the way he moves where he just looks different to other players around him. There's a handful of guys around the comp who just have that sort of, they're just big strides and they jump and they just kind of look like ballerinas almost in a moment. And that's the way he was moving around the ground. I was just like, I can't believe where this guy has come from a couple of years ago. Just flying at marks, taking a few of them, obviously the contested work as well. It's crazy the growth that this kid's had, because, when he first came onto the scene, I was a bit like, oh, I don't know, he's a bit rough. He's tough. That's good. We like that he's tough, but he's a bit, skills are a bit meh. I don't know. But if you pulled someone aside who'd never seen footy before and they weren't wearing the Essendon jumper and you showed him that kid in the first year and him now and you said they were the same person, I don't think they would believe you. That's how much to me I think he's changed.
I don't even think he's the same guy from mid last year, to be brutally honest. I think that something's changed. I went into this season, I didn't have him in the 22. I might have had him sneaking onto the bench, but he's suddenly become a midfielder that can almost invent space. One of the most exciting things is not only does he gets under there and he gets the ball out, but when he comes out with it, he seems to have a paddock before him, and he's got the confidence to move forward and take time. I think I said it last week. He specifically seems to, I don't know whether he's confident enough, but he seems to have the time to take that kick, to find that right precision pass. We spoke earlier about Andy McGrath in seasons gone by, where he would almost just kick it over and pray. Durham doesn't seem that type of player. He seems to be rather methodical with how he's disposing of the ball, and paired up with Caldwell, there's something that I think we've been lacking for so long, that blue collar, but with the skills that can really take it up to the best.
Yeah, Job Watson in the commentary was talking about, the two-way midfielders of Essendon, and he literally just said those two guys to basically say that the other guys, for whatever reason, either aren't bad or they're not playing that sort of role, but you're the two guys who are going to do the dirty work. I was surprised at times that Durham was going to Dacos at stoppages, because I was like, he's probably going to go to De Goey, not thinking that Stringer was going to be in that situation. But he was going to Dacos at times, and we know what an unbelievable player that guy is. And yeah, there were times where he was beating him to the ball and doing his thing, and I was just like, God, just keep him on the park. Just whatever we can do, just keep this kid fit, keep him doing what he's doing, because there's something special building there. Let's just hope it keeps going in this direction.
His overhead marking, like you said, Rob, a real feature of the game, something that really stood out to me. I was at ground level for the first time this season. I don't usually like watching the game at ground level. I find it hard to see what's going on up the field. Can't really see how we set up. But
you're a in the box kind of guy, aren't you, usually?
Yeah. Level 4 nosebleeds, I think.
Real
we'll go with the box.
Coterie group.
Yeah.
50, 100-year members, man.
100-year members, yeah.
But yeah, a couple of times he drifted in front of the pack, took the mark, and we've lacked a athletic, tall midfielder that can take a mark overhead through the middle of the ground, and he's adding that to the list of things he can do. And yeah, Caldwell and Durham in tandem again. Yep. One of the highlights for the game was, I think, Caldwell or Durham chased down Crisp on the boundary line in front of the interchange there, and Crisp got a handball out to Maynard, and then Caldwell, his mate, followed up and got him cold holding the ball. And I thought that little bit of play just summed up the effort and intensity from those two, and the never give up attitude which they come to play with every week. It's bloody great just going to the game and knowing that those two are going to crack in. I said it last week and I'll say it again.
I can tell you now, if you go back through what is available of the Sash archives that I haven't permanently shelved forever, if you go back to some of those Geelong losses that we've had over the journey, you'll hear me whinge and complain about the lack of marking midfielders in the Essendon side, because Parrish has never been that player, Merritt's never been that player, other guys who've been there have never been that players. And you look at around the league, the guys who've got good midfielders who can take solid marks, on the wing, in the middle of the ground, wherever it be. Now there's a guy on that team who can do it, because suddenly you're not just going, all right, where's the ruck? Or where's like Peter Wright? It's like, all right, we've actually got a couple more options to kick to when you're coming out of defence, because, think of the Bulldogs, for instance. Like, how many times has Bontempelli a bailout kick? Because he can do that. And we've never had an option like that who isn't a key position player. And, you can get good matchups, because he's not going to be bringing the opposition ruckman with him or the fullback or whoever it might be. He's going to bring another mid who, in an ideal world, if he's bringing Nick Dacos in him, even though he's one of the best players in the league, he's not a big marking player. So that's somewhere you can get an advantage over someone. So, whatever he's having for breakfast, how many Wheaties he's having, just keep doing that, Sammy. Keep eating the Wheaties. Stay fit. That's what we need.
It'd be Aldi brand though, wouldn't it? He looks like an Aldi guy to me.
He does.
Nothing fancy for does.
No. Yeah, good, different. That's Sammy Durham. Any more goods from you boys? Because I feel like I've covered most of the ones that I want to speak about, but I'm sure there's others from you. Anything else? Or do you want to get into next I have the okays, because they're not quite bad, so I'm a bit like, I don't know. So,
well, maybe this fits into an okay, because reading Bomber Blitz and a few other things after the game, this bloke's name was sort of on the hit list, but I walked away from the G really happy with his game, and it's Elwyn Davey Jr.
Okay.
I thought his pressure was immense. In a game like that, we needed it, where we had a relatively tall forward line. Majority of his work does not register any stat, and noticing again, or being at ground level, I think I really noticed that, as opposed to watching on TV or watching it from higher up, and I reckon the coaches would love what he's doing. His old man, Froggy, was one of my favourite players growing up as a kid, so maybe there's a bit of bias there. I just love seeing another Elwyn out on the MCG chasing down blokes and causing havoc, but I reckon he's improving every week. I said it a few weeks ago. Obviously, the downside of his game is actually what he does with the ball. He doesn't seem confident. He had a really bad moment where he went back with the flight and dropped the mark Rochelle-like from last week, and that led to Dacos playing on and kicking that goal. So there's certainly a way to go for him, but I really hope we stick with him. Obviously, there's pressure at the selection table, which we'll talk about. I really hope they stick with him, because, again, like you said about Durham, you can just see there's something there with him. I certainly can. I understand the criticism, but I just hope we stick with him and give him a run at it. Yeah, well,
look, I've seen negative comments. I know there's going to be a hot take coming up that's not quite a fan of his performance. I also know there was a bloke probably sitting 3 or 4 rows back behind me who just decided for the whole day that Elwyn Davey Jr. was in the crosshairs. And I think, like, in a game like that where it was, so contested and so tough at times, and, finals like atmosphere, as we've been saying, that him just being a bit more of a nimble body that, like, I'm not going to say he's shirt contest, but, there are guys like, Sam Durham will throw himself at his own, risk, forget any injuries, I'm just going to throw myself at it. I don't think he does that. And definitely times where the heat might have got to him and he was a bit fumbly. Definitely wasn't alone. There's a lot of guys who were fumbly throughout the game. So I can see where people come from, because you do want people who, all right, if I'm only going to get 15 possessions, I want to make sure they're clean. I want to make sure that's what I do. Whereas, yes, his defensive side has been good. I still think that if he's having, I don't know how many touches he had.
He had 10 disposals.
There you go.
Yeah.
10 disposals. Like, I can't recall many off the top of my head that were super clean and damaging, that did a whole lot. Whereas there are other guys on the team who might have a game like that, but you go, gee, they were impactful 10. But he brings pressure. And if we're going to play a big, tall team, you need some guys who are going to be pretty sacrificial in their games in the front half of the ground. And he's probably someone who can do that, because, like you said, we'll talk about selection, but, is a Dylan Shield, is a Matt Guelphy, is an Archie Perkins going to be able to run and chase all game like that? Maybe Guelphy probably can. I'd say the jury's out on the other two playing that sort of role. So you need guys who are going to be doing that. Like, even think of the great Richmond side of a few years ago. Think about how many of those small forwards just did dirty work all day. They did dirty work all day so that Dusty can just do his thing without having to try and tackle a single player, knowing that you've just got these guys who go, your job is to chase and tackle all day. So I'm like you. I hope they stick with him. He's still young. He's only in his third season, but I do understand why some people would probably be, a bit off him. And yeah, now we're going to see, with a few people potentially coming back from injury, where, Brad's allegiances lie and the rest of the, coaching panel.
I think he can only benefit from more time in the seniors. I'm not saying, all season. He'll definitely need a break at some stage, but I think a lot of that shirking, it's probably not the perfect sort of comparison, but I even think about Nick Cox at the start of this season. There were moments where I thought, this guy genuinely doesn't look like he wants to have the ball in his hands. He genuinely looked uncomfortable with it. But now I see him probably over the last maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Nick Cox he genuinely looks like he looks more comfortable and more assured with the ball in hand. I think that's something that Alwyn Davey will get in time. But you're right. He's still, he's 19, turning 20 this year,
20. He's
second
20
season.
now.
So I just think the more minutes we can get into him, the more of that pressure we can put him under. I think the quicker he'll become the player I think we want him to be, which is that damaging small forward that not only puts the pressure on, but can kick goals.
Yeah, and there's also been discussion that maybe when the time comes, he might actually be better suited playing up the ground as more of a high half forward role, even a potentially wing role, and that his brother Jaden is the more out and out forward pocket. I was just trying to pull up his stats, and I actually picked his father's page, and I was like, gee, I don't remember him kicking that many goals. Oh, no, wrong one. You touched on Coxie there. It was funny. A lot of good things from him, but also there was a couple of moments that was the Coxie of the last few years. There was the one there, I think it might have been last quarter or third quarter, I can't recall, where got the mark, got the ball, looked at a field of Collingwood players, didn't know who to go for, and just bailed out on a bad kick off a step. And then what happens? Collingwood mark, quick bang goal at the, back over his own head. But I'm with you though. He seems a lot more willing to contest it. A lot of times now where you'll see him in a winger half his size going for the ball and not always winning it, but often, laying the tackle to, stop the game or getting it out of bounds or doing what he has to there. It's also for him, in a season, this is the most games he's played since his debut year. Because I think he played 4 and 5, or maybe it was 5 and 6, and now he's played 7 in a row, which is awesome for him. So, look, I'm a big Coxie fan. I've said that from a long time ago. But I'm liking what he's doing so far.
Where do you think he plays his best footy, Rob? Because I'm even at the game, I'm still not sure. He's sort of that utility that floats, but do you sort of see him long term on a wing, in the back line? Where do you sort of think he'll end up?
If we're talking super long term, I think that, from hearing it from the horse's mouth when I sat down and spoke to him, is that I think in 5 years' time, they want him to be Mark Blitzarves 2.0. Mm-hmm. That's what they want him to become. They want to become a guy who they go, all right, someone's injured, go play in defence. Or, oh shit, the ruckman needs to have his boots, laces tight because doesn't know how to do them. Get in the ruck for 5 minutes. Or if you watch Geelong versus Carlton. What a luxury to be able to bring a ruck rover the size of my split and go, hey, go run on Paddy Cripps for 5 minutes. I'm sitting there going, fuck Geelong, I've got so many options. So I think that's where they want it to go. Is that actually going to happen? Different question. I think as we've seen, at least in those couple of games we had to play him as a key defender, I think he's clearly better suited at this point in time to playing that wing role because he's a mismatch. He's done some really good marks where we've needed an outlet kick and he's, a good guy to go to. He's being a bit more physical at the ball. Yeah, he's still got a lot to go. But yeah, I like the role he's playing right now because I think we've kind of got him being a real unique wingman on one side of the ground, and then you've got Dursman on the other side who's just an absolute workhorse. He played a really good game as well, by the way, particularly in the defensive side of things, and just, again, flexibility. You've got some options. Who knows? There may be a scenario where he'll be thrown down to the forward line as an extra marking target, So, yeah, I'm quite happy with where he is at the moment, and I don't think there's any reason for him to come out of the side at all coxy. But yeah, he was one that I had on my okay list because there was definitely goods and bads in my opinion. So yeah, all in agreement, all nodding. Quick one. Just want to speak of Benny Mackay real quick. Obviously, he will only be remembered as the stepladder for this week. And it was good to see that on social media was having a bit of a laugh about it. But this is something that was glossed over. I mean, I haven't seen anyone speak about it, but this is the first time Ben Mackay's career that he's played 3 games in a row without a loss. Has never happened in his whole career at North Melbourne. The first time he had won 2 games in a row was round 1, where he finished the year before with a win, and then this game, and then now he's had 2 wins and a draw with Essendon. So even though everyone will be like, "Oh, what a shit one," he was the stepladder. Elliott's had in his head. Yep, Elliott took a great mark, but I think for him and the fact that he's playing at a better club, the fact that he can actually sit there and go, I've played 3 extra without a loss. Like, this is foreign territory for me. And we will be favourites this weekend. And fingers crossed, touch wood very loudly again, everyone, that we are. It's 4 weeks without a loss for him. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. So, yeah, I just wanted to make that point about Benny because I really like what he's doing. And I know that all week long, it's all about how he's a stepladder. So,
James, we didn't bring it. We're really going to have to try this again. All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful.
There you go, Benny. Just on Benny Mackay, obviously, on the back page, everybody getting sat on by Jamie Elliott. But he also ran back with the flight in one of the more courageous things I've ever seen and still somehow ended up giving away a free kick on my check. I thought that was that was pretty stiff. It just wasn't his day, poor Benny. But
yeah, there was
anyway.
That and Hobbs getting called for hold the ball when he clearly hand passed it out. Obviously, the umpire was on the other side of him, but I was just like, gee, there was a couple of funny decisions there. That was the other one where I was like, I know it's front on contact, but like he's literally like eyes on the footy. Anyway, bads, couple of bads. I've got a couple now. I was promoting this guy pretty highly either last week or the week before. I'm getting mixed up, but I love Hobbsy. And I love what Hobbsy does, but I think he can be a little bit selfish. I think also he is too willing to wear the tackle sometimes. Because there are some players in this team who just, when it's, 10 guys in the phone box, just get it and quick hands out. Whereas Hobbsy, maybe it's because he's just maybe grown up being a bigger guy around smaller kids or something, that he's kind of used to, I'm going to take the hit and then look and then get off the hands. And in a game like that against Collingwood, there was just a few too many times where he just kind of took a few too many seconds, and there was a few where I could literally, it seemed like an obvious option. Like he's looking at a guy in front of him and I'm like, cool, get it out to him. And he just takes that extra second, wears the tackle, but doesn't break it. And I think he needs to improve on that.
He was my biggest bad in regards to a particular player because he had an admirable 14 touches. He laid 4 tackles, but he could have been tackled more than that because of the exact thing you're saying. I sometimes wonder whether he thinks he's still playing tack cup or something like that because he does seem to misunderstand his size, particularly in those close quarters. And we spoke last week. It was so funny last week. We were talking about how he looked like he'd maybe found himself a little bit. He didn't look lost. This week he felt lost again for me. And I think that getting caught as many times as he did, he just needs to. It's not a huge change, I don't think, but he just needs to sort of polish up his decision making, especially in regards to how quickly he makes it. But I guess that's something that may come with time.
Yeah. What you said around first option, Rob, is what I thought a few times there when he got caught, is that he had a first option and almost sort of feigned to handball and then would think, oh no, I can have another look. And in a game where you probably don't have that extra half a second like maybe he had the last couple of weeks, he got found out a little bit. But I've had him in my goods the last 2 weeks. I think he's playing that difficult high half forward role really well, as I've spoken about. He was still getting to the right spots. He was still contesting really, really well. I think he'll learn from that game. And overall, it will be a positive for him. But if he could break those tackles, and maybe that will come in a couple of years' time, it'd be a different story. But at the moment, he needs to know his capabilities and limitations in a really hot game of footy.
Yeah, exactly. I think just in a high pressure game, you just got to play the percentages,
the handball,
as they say. Just if the handball's there, just give it. There's no need to sit there and wait. Like, you look at the work the back six do when they got the pressure on them, and it'll just be like, Laverty, Heppel, back to Laverty, quickly to Mackay, Heppel again, and then suddenly there's been 4 or 5 handballs in like 5 seconds, and then you move it on. Whereas just it's okay to dish it off, like at least keep the ball with us. You don't always have to be the one possessing it. The other one, like, it just didn't get up to the speed of the game. Obviously, coming as the sub Hindy slips over. Like it's you can't say it's someone's fault for slipping over. Obviously, just misjudged it, and was a bit embarrassing for him. But yeah, I do worry for the man. I think now that we're going to have a few guys coming back from injury and through the VFL, that he is probably the first name on the list of guys to come out of the side now. And yeah, probably due for a spell, I think.
Yeah, I think with the pressure at the selection table now, his name's probably top of the list in terms of where we could gain an advantage. I think the other heart in the mouth moment was, I reckon it was probably just after Elliott dropped that mark, so maybe sort of 30, 40 seconds to go, and Kelly took the ball away and I think kicked it to Hind or handballed it to Hind, and instead of kicking it long, which probably seals the game in terms of us not losing, he tried to pinpoint a pass through to Merritt, and it grubbed along the ground. There's about 3 Collingwood blokes around, and as Merritt does, he made it look good and was clean, but we wouldn't be saying that if that target gets missed or Merritt fumbles and they run away and all they had to do was score. So yeah, just some poor decision making, obviously unlucky slipping over, but he's probably been on the out of the last couple of weeks, and now we've got some guys coming back in. I think he'll probably be back to the 2s. Yeah,
it's hard being a sub in a game, I think, like that, that's so high pressure. Like, the Collingwood guy obviously got on the end of it and scored a goal, but I don't think he did anything else other than that one kick. So, yeah, it's very hard to be that. And I think there's a few players in the comp who could come into a game as intense as that in that dying 15, 10 minutes and make a big impact. But yeah, I think time for a stint in the 2s for old Hindy, especially if we've got some options this week. Any more bads from you guys? Otherwise, we'll take a little break, I reckon.
I have a question and a future bad.
Okay.
So can I start with the question?
Okay.
It wasn't a good, it wasn't a bad, it might be just an okay, but is the 3 tall sustainable?
Hard to say. I mean, Collingwood, walked it out of there at times, but I felt there was enough pressure up the ground that it didn't feel like they were just cruising, if that makes sense. Yeah. I guess it's just a week in, week out thing because they play a very small team, Collingwood, and you could argue that they're probably maybe it's them and the Giants are probably the 2 who move it the fastest when they're up and about, maybe even Sydney. So if we didn't lose to them, maybe it is. I think it's definitely good at a smaller ground. Like, I worry that the bigger expanse of the G, they might get found out. So I guess it's a week by week thing, really. And, you see everyone's feeling. If one person's a little bit off amongst, the 2 rucks, Wright and Jonesy, if one person's not 100%, you go, oh, well, let's just run the smaller opposition this week. But my issue is going to be now that if Perkins comes back into the team if Shield comes back into the team, if Guelph comes back into the team, are those guys going to be able to bring the pressure that we've seen from some of those other smaller guys who've been around there? Because at least in Perkin, I know when he's on the ball, he can be okay, but I feel like when he's in that high half forward role, he doesn't really pressure that well, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think it's a week-by-week scenario. John?
Shield being a potential in is concerning to me. And Brad Scott speaks very highly of him, but I worry that he might impact the mix we've got in there. I don't know. What do you think, James?
I'd like to think that the game plan and the structure that Scott has implemented now and so far seems to be working reasonably well wouldn't be affected too much by one player coming in. I know the Richmond dynasty was sort of that next man up mentality. I'd like to think that would be the situation here. I don't think Scott will have time for anyone that's not willing to put in the defensive side of the game. And, historically Shield, probably not his asset. It's probably more of that attacking midfielder, forward of centre style player. He's going to have to buy in to that now. That won't fly anymore. So I'd like to think that the structure and game plan will hold up. And if it doesn't because of one player, then I'd like to think that player's out.
All right, I reckon we take a little breather. We'll be back after this with some hot takes. Attention all homeowners. Are you frustrated with your current property manager? Not receiving your rental payments on time? Property maintenance issues taking their toll? Well, say hello to Holland Price Real Estate, your trusted property management specialist. Based in Melbourne's north, Holland Price is a long-standing, family-run real estate agency with over 50 years of industry experience. What sets them apart is their dedication to providing a personalised service tailored to your specific needs. By choosing Holland Price to manage your property, you're not only supporting a small business, but also backing the Essendon Football Club, as director Carl De Sanctis is a passionate Bombers supporter. Well, aren't we all? For homeowners who believe it's time for a management change, why not make the move to Holland Price? For a limited time, they're offering an exclusive deal for listeners of The Sash. When you jump on board with Holland Price, use the code HPSASH to receive 1 month of their premium property service management free of charge. So head over to their website, hollandprice.com.au, or give them a call on 03 9384 0022 to discuss your property needs and use HPSASH to get 1 month off the premium property management service.
Yes, get it off.
Back to the pod. Part 2 of the podcast. Time for some hot takes. I actually just thought of another bad, and it's taken me a while to realise this, but I don't know if this is a jinx for this weekend or what. But Ryan, are you wearing an Eagles hat?
It is a bird. It's a non-specific...
I wasn't going to mention it.
Yeah, it's a non-specific bird.
That looks a lot like an eagle.
It could be.
Yeah.
It could just be a falcon.
Okay.
It could be some other predatory bird, but I was thinking that on the way in here because I didn't want to go full nuffy because I'm wearing my 1993 Bombers premiership top. I didn't want to go full nuff on a non-footy day and have a Bombers cap and that, and I don't really have any other hats. So I thought, okay, a low-key corduroy. I don't think it'll matter. I did think about it though. Not enough to take it off, but yeah. No, we'll say it's a falcon.
We'll say it's a falcon. All right. Well, hopefully that's not a jinx for the weekend. Let's get stuck into them. A few to get through before we wrap up for a night. So the first one's from Dusty. Thank you, Dusty.
Look, when you're in the bottom half of the 8, and that's where we'll be battling, hopefully, and the way we play and getting pumped every now and then, probably not a bad thing. We don't have to worry about percentage.
That's it. Don't have to worry about it. As long as no one else draws who's in the hunt for those positions, it won't matter. Next one's from Jason Laycock. Gee, I haven't heard from Jason in a long time. What's he up to? Let's find out.
Oh, lads. I'll take it. It wasn't a loss against the reigning premiers. Had our chances. Negatives I thought were Laverty, got to go. He's past it. Davey takes a short step every single time he chases and pretends to put pressure on and fools everyone into thinking that he actually is putting on pressure. Cox, again, majority of our turnovers, he was involved. Positives. Put Martin forward. That last quarter, he's got to be forward. Next time, we'll get them. Go Dons. Go Plains.
Doesn't mind a pause, old Jason. Doesn't mind a pause.
Bold pauses.
Bold pauses. Real bold pauses. You've got to be careful where you pause. Any comments on any of those players he singled out? Where do you guys see Laverty? If Ridley's fit, is it simply just Laverty out, Ridley in? Or is there a scenario where you keep Laverty to be a bit more of a, dirty defender and then let Ridley off the leash?
Well, now with Jake Kelly potentially playing on the smalls and obviously Heppel playing so well, it does make it hard to wonder where Laverty does fit when we've got potentially a Reed and eventually Ridley if the club doesn't fuck it up again. But it is going to be, I do feel like he would, much like Hind is probably the first cab off the rank, with someone coming back into that forward line. I think Laverty's going to struggle.
Yeah. Okay. Next one's from Dex. Thank you, Dex.
That's the edge, fellas. I mean, we can't do it easy, can we? It's always got to be the hard way. Great start. Scripted collapse in the second. And fought all day. So, look, there's a lot to like. I really want to believe. I'm almost there. Do I believe, boys? I don't know. You tell me. Geez, I hope we don't lose to West Coast. Go Dons.
Yeah. I mean, if that doesn't sum up every Essendon supporter being like, I'm starting to feel pretty good about this, but oh God, we're playing West Coast. Like, that is just the mindset, I think. Can you believe Deck? I mean, you can believe in the edge because I feel like we're bringing the edge. How far it gets us, though, that is the question. Next one's from Stringer Things.
Hey, fellas, just want to say, can't believe it. Anzac Day, pretty gutted. We're all over in the start. Feel like we should have won. They come back. They took their chances. We took our chances at the start. If anyone wants to blame Kyle Langford, you need to look at yourself in the mirror. He's been such a good player for us. I think just the occasion, the pressure got to him. But fuck me, you know what I mean? We're on a good place. I feel like this could be the year. I've been sucking in for so many years, bought family memberships, and I feel like this could be the year. This could be the year. Go Bombers!
Nothing better than a small child in the background where the hot day's been like, Dad, I'm hungry. Shut up. I'm sending a message. Nothing better.
You spoke around the family memberships.
You spoke out of that bloke having pauses to think about what he's going to say. This bloke just had, fuck me.
Good one. This one. Oh, this one's from not Lurker, Smirker. Let's have a listen to this.
Boisterous bombers, bend over, black and white bastards. Dickhead, Dacos, devastating. What do you mean Langford missed the goal? Oh, get it.
Smirker. There we go. Something different. They say, what is it? Imitation is the highest form of flattery. So there you go. Next one's from Willie the Wise. Thank you, Willie.
Now, I love Zach Merritt, and it was well deserved. But I'm here to talk about one man and one man only. He's the man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, the women's pet, the men's regret. He's a reflection of perfection, the man who got my attention, the one with the greatest arms, the one with the best charms, the one that did a lot of harm on Anzac afternoon. The man eats T-bone steaks, he lifts barbell plates, he is sweeter than a German chocolate cake. And all I got to say is when you're the best player in the comp, they've got a name for you. They don't call you a great player. You know what they call you? Sammy fucking Durham. Get a dog up, ya.
Pretty good.
He does have good arms.
He does have good arms. I'm going to star that one for the highlights at the end of the year, I reckon. Next one's from Joseph. Thank you, Joseph.
Hey guys, it's Joseph here. I'd just like to say that I'm personally very happy with the draw. Obviously, being at the game, we wanted the win, but looking back on it, I think the draw kind of helps us with percentage. We don't need to worry about that now, because it's shit. Yeah, I thought Parrish was pretty good. I thought he kind of showed us what he can do. Really put in a lot of effort defensively as well. I think he had a lot of tackles and was looking really well. Paco in the middle the whole time was very good. Missed wide open shots, but that is what it is. Langford also really good. I think the draw was definitely deserved. Both teams had their chances and missed. And yeah, go Plains.
There we go. Good from Joseph. Nice and to the point, which we like.
Very considered as well. Very good points across the board there.
Yeah, almost sort of whispering away. He wanted to get excited, but didn't want to get too excited. I like it. Just keep the lid on.
Yeah.
Danger game this week. I like
That's
it.
the most dangerous game of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Couple more to go because I'm tired and want to go home soon. All right. We'll see if I keep this one. This is Barrel Boy.
Yeah, hi guys. I left a hot take last year with some comments regarding whether or not we have big boys. Last year, it was obvious that we did not have any big boys. That was the consensus I came to. Upon watching this replay of Anzac Day, I think this year I'm wrong. There's big boys in the team. They got big balls and they're big boys. Now, it is an inconvenient time for us, for the AFL to remove weight, but I think that if we contacted my fellow autists down at Don the Stat, we could get them to maybe do some sort of scanning, enabling technology, I'm not sure, that could allow us to see the body mass of these big boys and see if they've actually turned into big boys. They're pretty big. They're big. They're huge.
Oh my God.
Keep it.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure about the orders comment, but I do know our good mates, Jono and Humie, down Don the Stat. If there's anyone who can get us the data or something like that, it is those two. They are the data men. They are the experts. So maybe they can pull those numbers. But yes, that was funny. That was very funny. All right. Do we have time for one more, do you reckon? Time to put a ribbon on this show, wrap it up for good, say goodbye, send it off into the night. There's only one man who can do that, fellas. He lives in a cave underground in a land far, far away. Some say he's not real. Some say he's just, merely something that an illusion, something that they get the tourists to come in to take photos of and say, this is where the lurker lives, but we don't actually know if he's real or not. But we do know that he does send in some good hot takes, and let's wrap it up with Lurker.
Die-hard Don's determination delivers drama during a desperate A-Day draw. Langford left lamenting. Hind, horrendous. Merritt's medal. Bombers brave. Better than losing. Not as good as winning. Go Bombers.
There we go. Nice big echo on that for us. There he is, the elusive, the mysterious, the Lurker. Do you know people send me videos on Instagram of just like people with rough voices saying things going, is this Lurker? I'm like, could be.
I can't fathom how many cigarettes are required to get that voice.
Could be Smirker.
It could be Smirker. It could be Smirker, although I do think there might be difference. I feel like Lurker's more of your, high-end, European car, whereas the Smirker might be something just a little bit cheaper, bit of a knockoff.
He's a protege.
Protege.
He can be
The
the
apprentice.
The
protege.
apprentice,
Yes.
yeah, the apprentice, the master and the apprentice. Maybe Smirker and Lurker can get together and start their own podcast. Rish and Rath are out. Smirker and Lurker is in. Well, that's been a great show, everyone. Absolute ripping show. Thank you to everyone who's stuck around, listened to the whole thing or viewed the whole thing on YouTube. Thanks, of course, to our amazing sponsors who help us with the show. FE Custom, of course, Holland Price Real Estate as well. Thursday, preview show, if you want to listen to that. Sign up to become a premium member, $5 a month. You get an extra show every single week. You also get a bit of bonus content. And I got some bonus content coming this week because I'm having a chat with Mr. Will Schofield, former premiership player at the Eagles, who does his own podcast, Back Chat, and also does a bit of work on the Fox. And I've got a proposition for him, but I'm going to save that for the episode. Just hear my proposal for the man. If I'm hoping they're doing the telecast, otherwise it's not going to matter at all what I say to him. I'll be like, hey, you should do this on air, and he'll go, I'm not on air, so it doesn't matter. But hopefully he is. Ryan, final thoughts from you?
Going forward, very excited to see what we can do for the rest of the year. However, this is the most dangerous game coming up. A winnable game, nothing surer historically than we'll lose it, but let's hopefully we can change that. Something I brought up in my piece this week on the Sash website. So just don't fuck it up.
Yes, definitely don't fuck it up. Go over a read of that one, everyone. I haven't promoted it yet on social media, but it is available to listen to now. All right, TV radio guide. Here we go. This is the big question, everyone. Is it the Fox game or is it Channel 7? It is the Fox game, which means Scully should be on the telecast. Final thoughts?
Yep, danger game, as I said. A little bit scared. I'm pretty intrigued to see what we do at selection this week. Quite a few boys played well in the VFL in Sardis and Shield. We've also got Guelphy fit and ready to return. Archie Roberts playing really, really well. And Perkins ready to come back in as well. So pretty excited to see what we do at selection. Maybe an opportunity to rest a Goldie or a Heppel, something along those lines. I'm sure you guys will get stuck into that Thursday. But yeah, keen to see what team we go with and also what sort of attitude we take over there because, as we said, historically, that's a game we probably drop. Hopefully the tide has turned now and that's a game that we not only win but can hopefully win convincingly.
Yes indeed. Yeah, would not be surprised if this was the first time we see managed on a team sheet this week. Obviously we've had a glut of a lot of games and now there's a bit of a break here and there's obviously a quick trip over to Perth. So wouldn't be surprised, but still not one we can take lightly because as they've shown that they're not the easy beats of yesteryear. So thanks everyone. We'll see you all next time. Up the plains. Go Dons. Bye.